to Bloody Good Horror, covering the best and worst of the horror genre since Halloween 2007. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello everybody and welcome to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be discussing Crawl. It's a movie about gators, John.
And relations.
And the perils of living...
Father-daughter.
Yeah, sure. The perils of living in Central Florida, which I would have thought were self-explanatory, but apparently we needed this movie to let us know about it. I'll be your host for this evening. Joining me tonight, first up, bringing some sophistical cinema flavor to the show, please welcome John Shelton.
Ahoy, hoy.
We had Andy 2 weeks ago. Now we have Shelton. I'm feeling very #blessed around here.
That's what we try to do. We come and bring our bullshit to whatever.
Next up on the show from Indiana, please welcome Casey.
Hello.
And last up tonight, from the wilds of Manhattan, New York City. Not a lot of hurricanes in your area, John, or like greenery or animals or really anything having to do with nature. It's just like concrete and poop.
Yo, we got mad rats up in here. I do not know what you are talking about.
Okay. Rats are nature. I'll give you that. Horrifying, awful, evil nature, but they're nature.
There's probably some chuds, you know.
Yeah.
I just throw that out there too, you know. So
New York City's rats eat pizza, so
There was that great. Did you ever watch that Netflix documentary? That was kind of like half documentary, half kind of like goofy horror movie, Rats or whatever it's called. Yeah.
I don't think I watched it, but I remember when it came out. I think that got a theatrical release, at least in New York.
It's pretty good. They really dig into like. It's good. You should watch it.
Like what rats do?
Well, but like literally just showing you the way that they kind of take over an area and the way that they, like, it's a lot about the way that the things humans do, sort of like how they adapt to that, and it's like hideous and disgusting.
Eric, I'm not going to break this whole thing down for you again, but because we've told you before, but Stuart Little wasn't real.
Oh, well, we did just do witches or whatever.
There you go.
I'm gonna have to beg to differ with you, big guy. John Schnars.
Yes, sir.
Speaking of nature, you went and saw that Midsummer. It's all about nature. There's like beautiful flowers and grasses and.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was a rare occurrence because I had a little 2-week vacation, a little 2-week BGH vacation at least. But I was at Midsummer. I want to say it was Saturday morning. I think I went to a Saturday 10 a.m. Had a delightful experience.
Saturday 10 a.m. How was that crowd for Midsummer?
Full, great crowd. I mean, we were in the recliner theater, so it was probably only like a 20 seater, 25 seater, something like that. But yeah, I mean, look, I listened to the show. You guys, you nailed it. I mean, I would say 80% nail, because like obviously I wasn't there to really kind of take it over the top. That's like the miss. But it was a bummer to not be there, because it's honestly.
I mean, it felt like a movie you could have done 2 shows on.
I considered recording a soliloquy, like just a one-man show.
Yeah, I told you
posting it on the feed.
Oh, I told you I wouldn't put it in the show because you wanted to
unedited,
or something.
just stream of consciousness.
I like that after, you know what I love about you, John? After 12 years, you're still so optimistic that you ask if you can record something to air in the show. Like, I'm going to say yes.
Yeah. I was going to call it. I was going to leave you a voicemail and just see if you could like play it in your microphone or something.
That kind of optimism is something people should try to channel in their lives.
No, but look, you guys nailed, you hit on pretty much everything. I mean, there's a lot of there's so much depth to the movie. That's like what I loved about it. And the other thing, and I don't know if I don't think it came up necessarily when you're talking about it, the thing that kind of is surprising, or was surprising to me, kind of thinking back on it, it's so straight. Like there's never a point where you're kind of like, oh, what's gonna happen? It's telegraphed from the beginning. They show you even like the sort of illustration up front that kind of has a lot of spoilers going on in it.
Yeah.
And you know, I mean, they just right down the middle.
I think like it's funny because I saw some people like not loving that scene, but to me, that is so funny. it's so funny, but it also sets up the tension. But it's like the funny progression of like normal looking like folk art to then like getting a little weird and then just like horrifying by the end of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was sort of like a Wes Anderson approach to horror. You know, it's that kind of design aesthetic. I mean, obviously different than Wes Anderson does it, but the mechanics. So yeah, huge fan. I honestly have been thinking about going to see it again in the theater because I don't know. It had that kind of impact on me.
My crowd was surprisingly satisfied, or that's the vibe I got, you know? Like I also tend to not stick around because I don't like to hear when people are upset at a movie because I just like my blood boils.
You have to
But-
run out with your hands over your ears. Just
But like specifically, and I mentioned this in the show, like after Hereditary, there's a couple next to me that I know 100% went to see this because the wife really likes Toni Collette because I heard her say it,
Mhm.
and she was livid when that movie was over.
Well, the funny thing to
Specifically,
me,
I think she was angry at Toni Collette.
how dare she do this to me?
Yeah,
Trail.
I had people walk out of I don't know if you guys brought it up. I can't remember if you guys talked about it, but did people walk out of anyone's theater?
No.
Because I had at least one couple walk out of the theater.
I had a
No,
shockingly good crowd.
In my theater, like the people at the end of my row, they were super into the movie the whole way. Like to the point where like the lady was like covering her eyes and the guy was like telling her when she could look again. And from every indication, they loved it. They were like, shrieking and reacting and like, jumping up and yelling shit. And then like when I got up to leave, they sort of like, well, that sucked. I was like, seriously? Like, you sounded like you were having a ball, but whatever.
Oh, man.
I
Some
love
people
that.
are hard to please.
I love
I
that.
think Eric, you made the point that it was just such a confident film,
Yeah.
and the ending especially, just so brilliant. I just love. I mean, really,
It's-
really loved it.
it's
I
the
don't know.
thing-
We don't need to. go
While I
anymore.
think it's very different from Hereditary, and it's really hard to say which one's better, but what I think makes this one a little more special is it feels like unadulterated vision, whereas Hereditary was still like pretty out there, but there's definitely moments like especially in the second act where you can feel somebody just in a suit just being like, could you make this a normal movie just for like 20 minutes? Like could we get like a cat could we get like a cat jumping out of a closet or something?
Yeah. I don't know. There was some shit in this movie that just, you wonder where he's gonna go next. You really do. It's
Oh, yeah.
how do you go up from
For sure.
old lady, boning assistants? That's just
Well, John, do you know where we're going next?
You mean
Speaking
after?
of old lady boating assistants,
Do you know
Do
where
you mean next week, or you're gonna have to give me some?
Do you
kind of
know
time?
where we're going next September?
Oh, this coming September.
Chicago,
So-
New York.
Chicago, near. Jesus Christ, Eric, pull yourself
Chica-
together. Chicago, Illinois.
Yes, that's the
Big
one.
Apple.
yeah.
Eric, I believe you're referring to the Spooktoberfest. That is our Bloody Good Heart Gathering 2019. We're very excited. So we have a note here from Joe because Joe covers these things. Joe is he's our event master. I don't know. This is a new title I'm making up
I like that.
as I'm talking. But yeah, so Joe lives in Chicago, as many listeners will be aware, and he's organizing this event and he's driving it. It's his hometown now, his adopted hometown. But we're really pumped. So we've obviously talked about it a good bit before. The sort of main event, and we've got our own Shelton here, we can kind of give him a hat tip. But we'll be doing our trivia, Spooktoberfest trivia, 4 p.m. Crown Liquors. That's 2821 North Milwaukee Avenue. For
4
those,
p.m. Wow.
yeah,
Getting
it's
an
gonna-
early start. Some day drinking, huh?
yes, yeah. I mean, it'll be September, so maybe it'll be dark by the end. But yeah, Crown Liquors, Saturday late afternoon. And that event's going to be open to the public. We'll be asking for a small sort of entry fee for everyone who's getting into the trivia. But it's going to be good. John, very knowledgeable, established trivia writer and host, knocked it out of the park in Milwaukee. So we're very excited to kind of run it back.
Well, John,
Honestly, guys, I blew my wad on the first one.
yeah,
I
no,
got nothing now.
yeah, no pressure,
We asked
Shelton.
all the questions.
Shelton, no,
There's really nothing else to ask. It's all.
no pressure. But I've been telling people it was the greatest experience of my life for the last 2 years. So
Low
Cool.
bar.
Cool.
Yeah, and as many people know, we're going to do a Patreon member meetup Friday night. So for the details to that, all you have to do is become a patron, $1 and up, at patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror.
very exciting.
Yeah, 7 and 9. It's going to be a good one.
John, I discovered that I can drink that seltzer stuff. What's that called?
Oh, hard seltzer, spike seltzer.
White
Yeah.
Fizzy
Claw.
water, White Claws.
Well, yes,
Like-
thank you. And I had 3 of them this weekend, John, and I was not hungover.
Oh, stop.
John, I haven't had a
Were you
sing-
drunk? Is the question.
Yes, I was. I haven't had a single drink without being hungover in like 8 years, probably. So,
Dude, you should just be moving to straight vodka.
so
Just
I'm
go
gonna need
vodka.
you to get like a case of it for the meetup.
Done and done.
If you want Fun
We'll
Eric,
get
to,
it at Costco
if
with
you
all our
if
muffins.
you want Fun Eric to come out, you will make this happen.
Don't worry, we can make this happen. The one sort of exciting update. It's a let's call it a semi update. We have a new T-shirt design coming exclusively for Spooktoberfest. It's being done by our own Cece.
Cece, who we should mention,
so-
has artwork in hotels across the country.
Oh,
she's been featured
she's a
on-
professional artist. People,
She's been featured on television shows.
there you
Hello.
go. Yeah, we got a very small sneak peek this week, and it's gonna be good. It's gonna be nice. We also got confirmation there will be a 21st Amendment tasting, hosted by a good friend of the show. So we're really excited about that. Yeah, it's gonna be good. So hopefully we will see folks the 20th and 21st in Chicago, Illinois. That's not New York for Eric.
It's very exciting, John. I don't. Who knows where it is? I just get on the plane and it takes me there. It's fine.
There you go.
Awesome, John. Thank you for that. Also, I don't. You may have mentioned this in your rant there, John, but there's a post on the site now with all the details,
Correct.
with like maybe the worst cropped header photo ever that apparently no one's gonna change, but whatever.
Nah, we're not. I would dare say you could Google Spooktoberfest. There's probably not that
No,
many
there's-
pages
There's
using
no
that
way.
word.
There's no way.
So
Anyway,
There you go.
yeah, check that out. So if you're ever like, oh, what are the details? You can go to bloodygoodhorror.com. It's right there, pinned at the top. Have a blast. Really quickly, John, I want to mention we have been featured, John, in a fanzine. Do you remember the 90s?
oh, what?
Are you familiar with the 90s? I
I
know.
think it's pronounced Zine, actually.
I know. Zane. I know Shelton knows the 90s.
Yeah. I don't know if I ever
I do.
bought a Zine
So-
to Sheldon.
I've never zined.
Don't say that.
I've never had a zine before, John.
Have you ever been featured in one though?
No,
That's the real
I
question.
don't. Well, not that I'm
This
aware
is a big
of.
day
Yeah,
for
yeah.
you.
So, fan of the site, longtime listener, she put together a fan zine about Joe Bob Briggs, John. All about Joe Bob Briggs and the last drive-in, and it's got a bunch of writing in there. Part of it is some conversations from the show transcribed that Joe and I had, just kind of like having a circle jerk about Joe Bob. It's very exciting.
It's the conversation I didn't want to hear and the fanzine I never want to read.
And now it's in written form. But yeah, check her out on Twitter at Joe Bob Fanzine. I think he might have actually written something in it. I'm saying that only vaguely being aware that might be a thing. So anyway,
I think that graduates you beyond fanzine.
check it out.
If the subject participates.
Check
But
it
I
out.
don't know.
Twitter at Joe Bob Fanzine. There you go. We're in there. All right, guys. It's time. It is time to talk about Crawl.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. From the prime time, bitch. Main feature.
And we're back. John,
Yes, Eric.
I really just have one question about Midsummer that I was wondering your thoughts on.
Oh, do ask.
How did that guy afford to go to college?
Wait, say which one? Which guy?
The cult guy?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Like, or get into one when he didn't go to a formal school.
yeah. Do you think they
So
the commune basically pulled like literally every penny they had, and they're like, "You gotta bring us
here's my
four people."
here's my theory, and this is next level shit, bro. I don't think he went at all. I just think he hung out with these dudes and pretended to go to school.
He was just that guy.
Is that more
Yeah.
logical than
I'm down with that theory.
somehow these people had $200,000 and a fake high school degree to get this guy into
Well,
school?
you know what? Okay. First of all, like homeschools exist. People do this in the United States all the time. Secondly, like those people had so many drugs. They could afford to send a few kids to
Well,
college.
Well,
every
they're
year.
keep in
growing 'em,
mind-
dude.
Hold on, he's also a graduate student, so theoretically, because if you're in a PhD program, you don't actually pay. Like they theoretically pay you because you're like working for the university, depending on what you're doing, obviously. But
This is
So-
America, John.
Because the other part of it is like
You
I
gotta
don't-
but they
too
weren't
much.
undergrads. Like they're not undergrads.
it feels like the what we see in the fullness of the movie is the whole point of him being at the school, right? So like maybe he doesn't even go back. Maybe it's I think it's fake, John. That's what I'm saying. It's fake news.
No,
Yeah,
I
He's
mean,
not a
I'm-
college student.
Interesting.
All he needs is a hacky sack, and he'd blend in perfectly.
This is a Scandinavian 21 Jump Street kind of situation, is what I'm trying to say.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Work to a T. I mean, we could also ask the question. The only real big sort of with that movie is, don't we think some of those people's families would go looking for them?
Sure.
Not,
Unless
the
they died
main
murder
gals.
suicides.
Yeah, not Danny's.
Oh, well, yeah, but Daniel. Oh, all right, no spoilers. We can continue.
Anyway,
We don't need to rehash this entire show.
hey John,
Yeah.
please bring us the word of the day.
Eric, today's word, which I stole gladly from one John Shelton, herpetology.
Mm,
Herpetology.
I think you need penicillin for that.
You might. It's the branch of zoology concerned with the study of amphibians and reptiles. Herpetology, from the Greek herpeton, I don't know, meaning reptile or creeping animal.
Cray open.
Yeah, herpetology. My guess, there was some scientists consulted on this film. I bet a herpetologist received a paycheck from the good people at Crawl LLC.
Yeah, I'm sure this is very scientifically. Everything was definitely,
I
signed
read,
off by
uh,
the Discovery Channel.
I read on the internet that they had to bring a herpetologist into the Big Brother house, John, to check some of the house guests out this year.
Those hot tubs.
Yeah,
I'll get you.
Valtrex. All right, John. Delightful.
Crawl.
Tell me about Crawl.
I would posit in some ways Crawl is the summer film most opposite of Midsummer. So Crawl, directed by Alexander Aja, the return of Aja, produced by Aja and Sam Raimi. It's a very straightforward film in a lot of ways. We have Haley. She is a swimmer at the University of Florida. We see her competing or sort of at practice early in the film, and she gets a call from her sister. Her sister says, "Hey, didn't you realize there's this huge hurricane coming?" Haley, typical college student, not paying attention. No, didn't understand the scope of the hurricane. And the sister tells her, "Hey, I haven't heard from Dad either. Can you go check on him?" Haley drives down to find her father. She ends up at their sort of old family house, which backs up to this like lake or lagoon. I don't know. But we are in full-blown hurricane at this point. She finds her father in the basement of the house. He had been doing sort of like random repairs because they're trying to sell the house. And just as she finds him unconscious, she's about to start dragging him up and runs face to face with a gigantic alligator.
Just herping through the water.
She got her herp on, and
You know how you get the herp, John, from sitting in like like stale
Your dirty
pond.
ass crawl space.
You were
Swamp.
so concerned about the amount of time they spend in hurricane
These
water.
people are dead. It doesn't matter what happens in the movie. They're dead within 24 hours of. They both have open wounds. The father literally has a compound fracture, and they're sitting in like hurricane overflow swamp water in central Florida, which is already disgusting.
I've never been bitten by an alligator, but I'm pretty sure one bite, I'm like down for the day.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Their mouths aren't super clean. I'm pretty sure that's science. But yeah, I mean, so basically, long and short of it, we have Haley and her dad, played by Barry Pepper. We should say Haley, played by Kaya Scodelario. I don't know. That's it. I mean, it's basically the two of them. They're trapped in what is essentially a crawl space. It's not really a basement. They can't stand up, and it is quickly flooding. They are being penned in. They are penned in by gigantic alligators, and it's a sort of will they or won't they survive? That is
Gross.
but
Who gets the herp?
and Eric
Find
has
out.
already spoiled it for you. They definitely won't survive like weeks afterwards because they will have died from
No,
infections.
it's all over, man. It's actually a
Toxic shock.
tragedy.
Yeah.
Hey, John, what'd you think of this? John Shelton.
Oh, what did I think of this? I thought it was good fun. It's a very straightforward movie. It's a good idea for a movie. I've never seen anything like this. I like a good shark movie or whatever, and this is kind of that. Kind of reminded me of 47 Meters Down, that same sort of thing. Oh wait, no, what's the other one? The other one, the good one.
The Shallows.
The Shallows, yes.
That's fair,
You've got a very limited location. You've got some kind of animal threat. You got to fight for survival. You got people doing some, MacGyver kind of shit to get out of it. Yeah, it was fun. I liked it.
I was about to get very upset when you were comparing this to 47 Meters Down.
I meant 47 Meters Down 2, the sequel.
Oh yeah,
'Cause
coming
that
soon.
looks badass.
Yeah.
Casey.
Yes, this was a good time in the movie theater. This is for the same reasons like Shelton was saying. To me, this really felt like a good throwback to when we used to get the natural disaster movies. But they did a really good job of not making it an over-the-top natural disaster like 2012 or some of like the old volcano movie with Pierce Brosnan, stuff like that. And the fact that it wasn't like a giant, crazy, mutated monster, spoiler alert, crocodile or whatever, kind of helped it be loosely based in reality. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. There's a couple moments in there which we'll get into later. It's like, well, why didn't they just do that? But the movie's fun enough that you can overlook that and just kind of laugh it off and keep on going.
John.
Yeah, I'll play the part of the most ecstatic, I guess. I mean, I had a really, really good time with this movie. I went in, I will say, I was pretty hyped up to see it in the first place, and went in, saw it on a Saturday night, pretty full house, and it was just, I mean, literally from the drop, you're basically in this movie 10 minutes in. You see the alligator right out the gate. There's definitely, we'll obviously talk a little bit about it, but the structurally, you're kind of in a relatively confined location, as Shelton mentioned, for a big chunk. But even then, they managed to kind of introduce enough to kind of keep it plugging along. And I think once you get to the third act, it's really wild. I mean, and so I ended up really, really enjoying it. I was somewhat joking that it's the opposite of Midsummer. In some ways, I would never say it's as good a film, but I had almost as good a time. I don't know that we mentioned it's about 87 minutes, I think they listed at. So it just
Hell yeah.
Solid.
it just snaps right on by.
Oh, yeah.
The other thing I was going to call out is like, I was looking at it because Sam Raimi produces under the sort of like Ghost House banner. And I kind of was looking at, I went to look just to see what else they had done. So the last film they had done before this was 2016 was Don't Breathe. And in a lot of ways, I think it's a pretty good comparison. Like that's another film that.
Yeah, by the way, if you're coming into this though thinking like, oh, it's a Sam Raimi joint, like, bro, he signed some checks, all right? Don't get too excited. Like,
no, well, so the point I was going to make is like, if you look at his last 5 years or 6 years, I mean, so it's like Evil Dead was 2013, Poltergeist, Don't Breathe, Crawl, Grudge. That's it, and Grudge is coming next year. So, he's really not making that many. He's not producing that
I
many
think
films.
what he's doing is like, he's shepherding some things for some young filmmakers, I think is what he's doing.
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, Alexander Aja, we should talk a little bit at some point. Like,
Yeah.
here's a dude who, I mean, I don't know, I don't want to say we like wrote him off, but he hasn't. I think we all kind of looked at him as
I
like,
think he
oh,
just
this
kind
is
of.
going to be the
I
guy.
think we all thought he was going to be like a prodigy, and then he just kind of like fizzled out a little bit.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, he's
I'm
had
not
some
sure I
good.
would
I
call
mean,
this like.
he's had some other good films,
I'm
but
not sure I would call this like a comeback. Like anybody could have directed this movie and made the same exact thing.
like see, this is where I think we'll have some disagreement. Like, I think this is a very well made film. Like,
Yeah.
it's not. It's like saying, taking take your pick on like an action movie and saying like, oh, anybody can direct this action movie. Like, there's a skill in knowing how to kind of like shoot and pace these. I mean, it's just like anything. This
Oh
thing,
yeah.
it,
The pacing wouldn't be the same.
yeah. So I don't know. I ended up really liking it. I think there's a lot of stuff we can touch on. For me, a lot of it just comes down to like, there's a bunch of like, it's not jump scares isn't really right, but a lot of the movie is sort of like, oh shit, that alligator just ate someone, tore someone apart. Like, if you walk into it knowing that's sort of what you're gonna get, and you're looking forward to it, you're gonna really be rewarded, I guess.
Yeah. I think this movie's fine. I think it's fine, and I think that is fine, John. Like it's funny. It's actually perfect timing. There was like a tweet in like movie Twitter last week or the week before that went viral that was like, "Hey guys, it's okay if a thing is just okay. Like it doesn't have to be the greatest thing ever made. It doesn't have to be shit. Like there's an in between, and we need that kind of stuff. Workman entertainment, you might say. So it's fine. It's very low budget. To me,
Now it's actually like mid budget. It's 13 million they spent on this, which is
I'd call that
way
low.
bigger than.
I'd call that low.
Well, it's way bigger than like the average Blumhouse.
Well, it's
thing.
also very effects heavy, like very
Yeah.
effects. There's a lot of CG
Yeah.
in this thing.
Wait, you're telling me those weren't real alligators?
It was just it was a bear in that closet in Chernobyl. They just were like, just had no regard for the actor's safety whatsoever. I will say to me the budget limitations bothered me at certain points. Part of it is like a half an hour in. You're right that they get into the situation pretty quick, but then we're in that friggin' crawl space basement for like a long time, and at some point I was like, oh god, is the entire movie in this? Is this like a phone booth scenario? Luckily it's not, but the scope doesn't really get much bigger than that, and there's a moment where it actually like teases you with even opening up more, where they kind of like there's some characters that saunter in. You can probably guess what happens to them, but they brought a boat with them, and then our characters sort of procure the boat, and they're like ready to go. Maybe not escape, but just hey, go to the next leg of their journey, because we're like in the second act, and you're thinking like, okay, here's where it opens up, and then literally you could like it was a wave in the shape of the screenwriter's hand that like rushes by, picks up the boat, and doesn't just throw them off course. It physically throws them back into the house as if to laugh at the audience and say, LOL, you thought this was going to get really cool for a second, and now you're just back in the house.
See,
But were
and I
you
thought-
hoping for the crocodile takeover of Florida?
I thought that they made decent hay out of the idea of sort of the water rising, and so we're going up levels in the house, and that's fine. And I think ultimately at that point, you really kind of know, like, okay, this is a one house movie, right? But the reason why it bummed me out is because the shit that happens outside in this movie is awesome. Like, because it's the CGI on the gators is great. And this, I do think the suspense is decent. But then when in these outside scenes, you also have all this atmosphere of like the wind blowing and the rain pounding and like all this noise, and so like it makes everything feel heightened. So then when we kind of get thrown back in the house, aka like apparently Serbian soundstage, to me like those scenes feel, I don't know, I want more outside. And I get that it's like it is what it is. It's not what the movie is. Didn't have the money to do that, but it was like I think I might have been a little better if it wasn't for them teasing me with it. I was like, are you kidding me, dude?
But where can you go though? That's the problem. Like you're not wrong about any of that. But like once they're out of the crawl space,
but the water was like teeming with gators. They really easily could have made it a little ways, been knocked off of the boat, and then had to
but
like.
then you get on a roof, and that's
Right, but it's at least a different setting. You could have ran into more characters somewhere. I don't know. I just feel like there's ways it could be done. I'm just saying.
They teed up. I mean, look, like this is where I will again. I'll make the charitable argument and say the script for something like this is actually like as good as you could possibly ask for. They teed up the whole like levees could break situation multiple times. Like it's telegraphed for a while. So when it does happen, I mean, you're right. Like they get thrown back into the house. I love that sequence because
Yeah.
I'm like a sucker for disaster movies. So anytime there's like roiling water coming at someone, I'm just like fist pumping.
Yeah, no, I loved it until
But
I realized we were back in the house now.
no, but then I love the whole, to your point, the water, like they went from, hey, we're gonna drown in this fucking basement to, holy shit, like we're like having to climb through the house.
Which, by
as
the way,
water-
wouldn't have also happened as quickly. Again, like it's I don't know why I was like just watching this movie in this frame of mind, but like these little screenwriting contrivances were really sticking out to me. Like the only reason the water rushes up that fast is that she punches a hole in the floor with a friggin' hammer to get to, but like doesn't even pull him out that way. Like that's not even, you know what I mean? It's just like, oh well, now there's a hole in the floor, like a
No,
gator-sized hole in the floor.
she gets him out through the hole
Yeah.
Is that what
when
happens?
she gets him out. Yeah.
all right.
Mhm.
But no, I mean I mean, look, like now we're just going to talk about, or I'll just talk about things that I love. The scene where the water is like rising up the window and she's sort of trying to figure out how she's going to get out of the room, and the gator just comes and smashes through. Like,
The Jaws
like-
3 scene.
yeah,
Yeah.
well,
It was
but like,
straight out of Jaws 3. It was great.
I'm here for those types of scenes. Like
I
that
did.
is-
I
that
very
shit-
much, I
it-
very much enjoyed the stuff in the bathroom. I thought that was
The
pretty.
bathroom
Yeah,
was
the
my
bathroom's
favorite
great.
part.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you noticed when she did like the roll to like escape and trap the gator or whatever. They actually did that in slow motion, like an 80s action movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's fucking badass.
Hey,
Like that's
I also I have one more thing to complain about, but I'm gonna sandwich in something here that I like, John. To your point about the script being pretty good, I liked the whole through line of like her being a swimmer, and the dad kind of always pushing her, and now she's hitting a wall. It's like I thought that worked well, and I liked the flashbacks and how they worked that into like the present scenes.
Yeah, I mean, it was sort of Captain Marvel-esque, you know, sort of like everything before has led me to this moment.
Yeah.
But really, I mean, well done. And for a movie like this, you've got two characters. Literally, there's two characters in the
Yeah.
entire film. And in fact, you had sort of set it up, or you had said something earlier that made me think of it. But like when the opening credits are rolling, there's literally two names. They just show you the Caius Scodolero and Barry Pepper. At that point, there was like a 20-second thing where I was just like, oh my God, there's only two people in this whole movie. Like, what the fuck? And that's where, again, like to me, one of the things they do. So I think that relationship works great because so much of the film hangs on it. And in case you mentioned, like Barry Pepper's great. I like for this type of thing, for a summer movie, the way they up the body count, to me, like I was just so on board for it, literally just sort of applauding as it was going on. So basically the 87 minutes is like 20 to 30 minutes of setup, getting them into that basement, establishing that the water is rising. Then the next like 20 minutes is the gators just murdering 5 people by doing, you get these like 3, I don't know, looters who somehow are like, that's where the boat comes from, and they're gonna like steal an ATM machine, which I loved.
Yeah,
And
that was
they're
hilarious.
gonna put it in their boat, John. Their little
Well, and
tiny rickety
what could
ass
go
like
wrong?
life raft.
I mean, but even better than that is you get Wayne. I think his name is Wayne. Wayne, the cop, who's in love with the sister. So all of these things are sort of like these setups where you're like, oh, well, they're gonna call the sister. The sister's gonna call Wayne. Wayne's gonna come kind of be the third person that's gonna help them solve this problem. They introduce Wayne, and again, spoiler alert: Wayne is eaten within like 20 seconds of being on screen. It's just. That was
Yeah.
a moment that I was actually like genuinely surprised by and really, really enjoyed. So
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with like how isolated this movie was. That it was all, half of it was in this crawl space, and then it was just stuck in the house and everything. Because it fits the name of the movie. I mean, I got to think that's kind of why they called it Crawl, because you're in there so tight and that you can't move and you can't get away, and there's no place for him to go. So to me, that just rose the tension up, and it's just like, oh,
Well-
what are they gonna do?
Well, let's talk about that.
Eesh.
Let's talk about that crawl space a little bit, John.
Hell yeah.
They're in they're in a crawl space under the house. This is my last thing. This is my last beef. And there are open spots it's brick. The walls are brick, and there's like open, almost like latticed, like where there's like bricks kind of cut out where they can see outside. There's scenes where they're trying to flag people down, whatever. These bricks, these are like some rickety ass looking bricks that look like if you blew hard on them, they would come out and you'd be able to just climb out.
Yeah, but
And,
there's
like-
like dirt. You were talking about this in the
They-
email. And I did
it
not understand where you were
bothered
going
me
with it.
I
because
actually
they're
had that thought
trapped.
during the movie too.
They're trapped. It bothered me that there's so much garbage and junk down there and heavy crap. Nobody thought they'd just pick something up and huck it at the bricks and just see if they could maybe lodge one loose. All it would take is like getting that middle like keystone one out, and then you got a hole.
Of course, the house might fall on you then, but
I mean, keep in mind too, you have
listen. All I wanted to see was
Barry Pepper and his compound fracture, and then
she's fine.
what?
For the most part.
she got, chomped on by a
Yeah.
gator several
But
times.
I-
Well, he was
See,
picking up a house jack and banging on pipes and things. Just
Yeah.
like hit the fucking bricks.
All I'm
and-
saying
that was
is
what I was gonna say.
there's just like
'Cause
some weird spatial logic stuff for me in the basement. That's one thing. For a second thing, there's like a little bit of inconsistency about like when this gator, like you either can't walk 2 feet from the pipe or you can actually swim all around for minutes on end without a gator attacking you. Like it's very convenient based on what the script needs her to be able to do at that moment. That stuff kind of bugged me a little bit too.
So I've got a question. How many gators do you think were in this movie? Because at
Yeah.
first you're like, oh shit, they're trapped here with 2 gators, and then it's like, oh no, there's like dozens of gators.
Yeah.
There's like 100.
So many gators.
Well, at first it's 2, and you're like, oh shit, there's a second gator, and then to your point, that you see outside, and there's
Yeah.
I don't know 7.
I
Like,
think
it's a lot.
there's 3.
Oh, there's more than that.
Is there 3 in the basement at the start, and then there's a lot more outside?
No, just 2 in the basement.
There's 2 in the
Okay.
basement. Well, and the
And
other
some
thing.
eggs as well. Like,
Well, I was gonna say that was the other. So the eggs thing is interesting, right? Because they have this whole sequence where she essentially discovers this nest of eggs, and my thinking, we did it on the show. I think it was Deep Blue Sea 2, where Deep Blue Sea 2, one of the big sort of things going on in that movie is all the baby sharks. And I was actually like half expecting a moment where she ran into just like a shitload of little baby alligators. Thankfully, that did not happen.
well, no, there was a baby alligator
Yeah.
for no apparent reason.
Wait, I don't remember the baby.
No,
Yeah, they showed one
of the
hatching.
eggs hatched.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because that was
No,
when
but-
the lady sitting next to me in the theater said, "Oh hell no, they got babies."
Nice.
You actually just made me remember another little pet peeve was like she finds a gator nest and she hangs out there for like 5 minutes just
Well,
touching
yeah.
the eggs, and I'm like, dude, do you know anything about nature?
Just go. No, but I actually like that moment because there was a part of me that was like, why the fuck are these gators in this basement? Like, what is going on? And that was at least like a nod to say, this is the gator nest. Like that,
Yeah.
this, because we know the house had been empty. This was sort of
Dad,
safe place.
Dad mentioned the drain though in that lake early on and how they got on there. That was like one of the first things after he woke up he mentioned. So
Yeah.
that wasn't necessarily a big mystery part, but
Listen, I'm sounding negative on this. It's fine. You know what this movie's literally perfect for, John? You're like hungover on a Saturday afternoon and you're flipping through cable and you just want something like easily digestible. This movie is like right up your
Yeah.
alley for that day.
So I should have admitted this up front. I had several drinks before I went to the theater and I saw this.
no
And-
way.
And there it is.
It I mean, look, it didn't hurt. So no, I agree. I mean, this is not rocket science in movie form. I think for what it is, it was better made than I expected. I would have tolerated and actually enjoyed something that was even shittier, that had like more plot holes, where the gators were more ridiculous looking. They really pulled all the strings that you want from a movie like this. There's a kill scene where 4 to 5 gators literally just bite all of the different appendages of a person and pull them off at the same time. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely has its moments, and I think they nailed the gator stuff, which is like the one thing they really needed to do.
Yeah,
I mean,
'cause
the
I
movie's
had-
about gators. So you
The hype
obviously-
I had built up in my own head that this was going to be a giant gator movie, like a giant mutant gator was going to show up, because that's what these type of movies typically do. And I was hoping to see a giant monster gator, and we didn't get that, but it ended up being okay because the way they had so many of them, and it felt just kind of like nature.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think this would be a blast to see with like a rowdy crowd. I saw it in a fairly empty theater. I saw it on a Monday. There were maybe, I don't know, 6 other people. Not a lot of, Not a very rowdy crowd, but I think with like a packed like midnight crowd full of drunk schnarzes, this would be a lot of fun to see.
I actually have a really good theater story. So I do the buy your ticket thing, because I do the Fandango, so I can like pick out
You
my
bought your ticket before you went into the theater?
but I can pick out my seat. We've talked about
Yes,
this before in the
yes.
show,
Okay.
and the etiquette therefore. So I get in there, and this theater is empty, except for 5 people. So I'm like, it's like a family. I think they were Chinese or something. They were not speaking English. So I'm walking down the hall, and I'm like counting my rows out, and I'm like, oh god, I think this is my row. I'm like, what do I do? I'm like, this is really weird. My seat was literally right next to these 5 other people in an empty theater, and my brain almost exploded because I'm like, if this was me, I'd be like, dude, don't sit next to me. But also, I personally am very faithful to the ethics of picking your seat and sticking with it.
Well, yeah, once you have the ticket, it's like, yeah, you can't create some domino effect where you're sitting in someone else's seat. It's
Well,
terrible.
listen, so I slowly, awkwardly walk to the seat, and they are all staring at me, John. Like, they are staring a hole in me. And I sit down, and I shit you not, the one next to me, I think was maybe like a teenage girl, kept looking at me, like literally just like,
Yeah, well, you're the creepy old dude now, man. I hate to break this to you.
first of all, I just sat down. I didn't do anything. I just sat down. So I was like, okay. I was like, I'm going to move, but I need to wait. So I waited until the trailer started and the theater was still basically empty. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, there's no way somebody picked this. So I just moved one seat over. I gave up. And there were like other people in, but just nobody else in that aisle.
No, it's funny you say that. I actually sat an aisle behind because the same thing happened to me. I bought my ticket in advance, and like some like sociopath bought a ticket for the seat right next to me in an empty theater, which I'm like, what are you doing? And so I just zipped back a row, and
I'm not
I
going
was
to lie.
prepared to be like, oh, is this row E? I thought it was D. Like whatever.
I mean, the thing is, I'm not usually in empty theaters, but I'm not gonna lie. If you're sitting next to like my favorite seat, I will still buy that seat if it's empty.
I was going to say, John has clearly, he's learned the lesson and it has better, creepy old man etiquette than you, Eric. That's still
Just, I need some cray open practice.
I saw this, like I said, Saturday night. It was pretty full. There was a guy sitting in front of me who was legit losing it. So any jump scare, this dude, it was like thrashing.
That sounds
just
fantastic.
Back in his seat, like what? Exclaiming. It actually added to the experience. In my opinion.
This is the kind of movie you want that done with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was really down for the Gators situation. So
I think it's funny that Eric had problems with the holes in the brick wall when they were in the crawl space, because I had that same thoughts, like, why don't they try tugging on the holes? But my other one that really got me is one we see later, once Kaya Scolario got out of the crawl space, and then she makes her way into the house, and then she finds a hammer and hammers through the floor and pulls her dad out to rescue him from the falling water. Dad had a shovel. Why the hell didn't he go through the floor?
I don't know. I mean, shovel it.
Well,
He didn't have the leverage on it. Would be my guess.
Go through the floor. Yeah. Go through the floor that looked like wood, but it was apparently made out of like stale brownies.
Or when he kicked the floor jack out and the floor collapsed, they could have crawled out that hole.
Yeah, that's true. That would have done. You would have thought that would have done some weird stuff to that house. But all right, guys, come on. You got gators. They're ripping policemen apart. I don't. Why you gotta ask questions at that?
And this is going to be important to a lot of listeners out there, and it really made me happy by the end of it, which I don't normally dwell on these type things, but the dog lives. And that was great.
I saw that on Slack. Someone posted that on Slack.
Yeah.
Like random nonsense. It was just like an FYI for everyone.
Yeah.
That's service journalism right there.
But I thought it was cute, though, that the way that they made sure the dog was okay as they went through. The dog didn't have a whole lot to add to the movie, but
I was pretty glad that they didn't like gratuitously do anything to the dog, because they could have pretty easily.
Oh yeah, that's typically in the 70s or 80s that would have been first light snack.
Throw the dog into the gator's mouth.
Yeah, the dog was just in the movie for cheap heat. Like that was just purely like just so people would be like, "Oh, I hope the dog's okay."
But they even
Well,
they don't even really put it in danger, which I actually appreciate. Like, just make him a sidekick, let him come in and save the day every once in a while. Like, that's all I need.
The dog did. It found the dad. I mean, the dog had a lot of roles to play here.
Yeah.
So, Sugar the
Yeah.
dog.
Oh, the dad. He's like, sugar.
Yeah.
Southern dads.
Crawl.
Shit's funny.
So Crawl 2. Crawl in New York.
Crawl
Is that where we're
harder.
going? Crawl harder. The gators all get blown to New York via.
I only have one
Telepathy.
request, that we visit more than one house in Crawl 2. How's that?
Well, maybe that's when you see him overthrow the Florida government.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Would you recommend this and in the theater for the short amount of time it has left, John Shelton?
If you can get a group of rowdy folk, then maybe. Otherwise, I think this is a really perfect like Saturday afternoon kind of thing.
Casey?
I'd say yes, go ahead and see it, but yes, it's perfect for a rainy Saturday afternoon on cable too.
John?
So
I will say heartily recommend.
Sorry, Casey, were you done?
oh no, that's fine.
I would say, yeah, there's never been a better hungover Saturday movie than this, and that's about the best thing I can say about it. It's fine. All right, guys, let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
The terror of the past is but a taste of the future. What happened before was a hint of the havoc to come. The first time was only a warning. William Holden, Lee Grant, Damien, Omen 2, rated R. Starts tomorrow at a theater near you.
Hey guys, this is Danielle Harris. You might know me from some of the Halloween movies, and you're listening to Bloody Good Horror.
Send your emails to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or hit us up on Twitter at BGHorror with the hashtag AskBGH. And don't forget to pick up back episodes of the show at podcast.bloodygoodhorror.com.
And we are back. We are back.
Are you back?
Info@bloodygoodhorror.com. John, this is from Rhiannon. It was my day off today, so I went for a nice walk with the latest episode of BGH in my ears to keep me company. A couple of minutes into the podcast, and the Joe character says, quote, "This might be my favorite movie we've reviewed for the podcast," or something like that. And then in all caps, she writes, "Okay, fine, I'll go and actually watch the damn movie. I bought a ticket now, all right? Going to see Midsummer in about an hour and a half. Hope I enjoy it, or I will be writing one disgruntled email when I get back. Lots of love to you all." That's from Rhiannon, and she loved it. She wrote back.
Oh, good.
So there you
I
go.
was gonna say that's a strange email. The pre-viewing email.
I'm just letting you guys know.
Yeah.
I will
Hey
be
guys, I'm going to the
pissed.
movies.
This one's
Talk
on
to you
you.
later.
And that's it for emails,
But
John.
thanks for the note.
What do we got on Twitter?
All right. We got some tweets. There's a couple of tweets. So we'll start with our BGH classics. A couple of classics here. This is an Eric quote coming to us from @jhar0. Jake. Candyman plus colony collapse disorder. I think Boss Rutan wins. I had to look up what Boss Rutan was,
Oh,
and
John.
it's a person.
I interviewed Boss Rudin once.
Wow.
And it was a time before I knew who he was, and I called him Bass, and he was not happy with that.
He was displeased. No, it's funny because I recognize him a little bit when I went to his Wikipedia page.
He was a big MMA guy, but then he had a big viral video because he made these batshit crazy self-defense videos where he's basically showing you how to kill somebody in a bar fight. And so somebody did a supercut. This was a decade ago. That's why people know him now for the most part.
He's been in some movies. He does say so. That's from episode 283, Grabbers. Grabbers. I actually don't think I was on that because I don't think I've ever seen Grabbers. He says I can't help but hear this in Will Ferrell's Harry Carey voice. So There you go, Jake. Thank you. Monica checked in with a couple. She paired these with classics. She paired the classics with pictures from the BGH 10-year reunion for extra perviness, just as context. The first one is a schnarzism. Are we going to blow our spoiler load? We probably did. It was episode 70, Martyrs.
We always do.
We can't help ourselves. We have no self-control.
Yeah.
The second one.
We should really see a doctor about it, if we're being honest.
Episode 210.
We're gonna go see the herpetologist.
Jesus Christ.
Got him.
We're really it's coming apart here. Episode 210, Snow White and the Huntsman. Andy says, I love sucking intellect. And Joe says, I wish I was the intellect.
What? What a weird movie Snow White and the Huntsman is.
Yeah.
For
They made a sequel of it. Or is that the sequel?
It's like, what if we made a dark fantasy movie, but also it's kind of like based off of this kid's thing, and also like, handsome dudes. And what's that guy's name? Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, Chris Hemsworth.
Pre-Thor, Chris Hemsworth, and Charlize Theron. It's insane. It's one of the craziest movies I've ever seen. And Kristen Stewart.
They did make a sequel, right? Wasn't there multiple Huntsman movies?
Yeah, John, do you want to talk about how I wanted to review it in the show and you all refused? Joe literally threatened to quit the show if we went and saw it.
Yeah. What was the second one called?
It was
Huntsman,
like
something.
No, because
was it just called The Huntsman?
The Huntsman, maybe? Yeah, that makes sense. Because
Lord.
I don't think Kristen Stewart was in the sequel because she was like Snow White or whatever.
She had her fill. Winter's War. The Huntsman Winter's War.
Oh, I want to see it.
Yo, no one is stopping you, dude.
It's funny. There was actually a free PC game that got released with that thing, and it got like decent reviews.
All right. Well, that is a good segue because our first Ask BGH. So the other hashtag we follow here on Twitter, hashtag Ask BGH. We will answer pretty much any question. Don't be Apple Tree Joe. That's at Real Joe Scar. He says, I just found a pretty decent game called Iron Maiden Legacy of the Beast. It's dumb fun and thick with maiden minutia. What have been some of your favorite music or band-based video games?
I mean, how many are there? You got that. There's that Aerosmith rail shooter from the 90s.
You remember that Journey arcade game where you jumped on drums and had to get to the show or something?
Yeah, I'm gonna say the arcade version of it's not called Thriller. What is it? The Michael Jackson thing?
Moonwalker.
Yeah, Moonwalker.
Oh God.
And you hit the button and he dances and kills everybody on the screen.
I had Journey Escape on the Atari. That was good times.
I didn't realize there were Journey video games. That blows my mind a little bit. I definitely played that Aerosmith game where you shoot a CD. That's the superpower. It was basically the T2 game. It was like a very similar. It was like a port almost, and but instead of the bomb, you had a CD. I don't know. That was ridiculous. I don't know. I think that's all of them. We just named all of them.
We named every single. Well, no. So the other big one. I zoned out for a second. But there was that Jack Black starring like real time strategy game a couple years ago. That was all like steeped in metal lore.
Well, what was the name of the band?
I gotta look it up.
Tenacious D.
Oh yeah.
I'm assuming it had Jack Black in it.
No, it wasn't a Tenacious D game.
It was called Brutal Legend.
That's
yeah.
Yeah, he just did he did the Brutal Action Legend is an action adventure video game with real-time strategy elements. It was created by Double Fine. They've done a lot of like adventure games. 360 came out in 2009.
Wow.
I played that one. Some people love it. It wasn't my cup of tea.
Well, there you go.
Here's a picture.
At Joe Scar.
Here's a picture of Jack Black from the press conference for the game with fake muscles arms. I'll send that to you guys just so you can see it. There you go. You're welcome.
Can't wait. Oh yeah,
lit.
That's pretty good. Jack Black's a delight.
There you go.
I'm in that camp.
He is. He's great. I love
him. Next question, Lori Hovermail at Nyland Devenger. Nylon Avenger. I think she's an Avenger with nylons. Things I really thought I would witness before the age of 13. A mutant gator running amok in the sewer, quicksand, a Bigfoot sighting, and Danny Glick scratching at my bedroom window. What's your biggest childhood letdown?
The quicksand thing is funny. It was in every 80s movie. Every 80s action movie had like, or fantasy movie had quicksand.
Yeah.
Like literally, you think of like The Princess Bride or like Neverending Story. It was like quicksand was always a big thing.
Oh yeah.
This is a really good question because there were definitely things that if you watched a lot of movies, you were just, I don't know. I have to think about it.
But like razor blades in your Halloween candy, trick or treat. I remember when I was a kid, it was probably middle school. My parents actually, they had the local hospital had it set up. You could take your kids on Halloween to get their candy X-rayed for free.
Cool. That's weird.
That's that's something. I don't know. All right, Lori, we'll come back to you potentially. Pick us up on Slack. Lori, recent Slack joiner. COW Flanagan. I'm gonna synopsize this tweet a little bit because there's a lot of action going on here. It says, "What is the worst animal encounter you've had?"
Animal encounter. I'm trying to think if I actually had like a bad. One time I was, it was like a really really cold winter a couple years ago, and I was walking my dog when I was living in Boston. And a car pulled over, and they're like, "Hey, there was like a very hungry-looking fox like following like 10 feet behind us, and it was literally about to like attack my dog. But we walked to the intersection, and the car scared it, and it ran away. So I never even saw it, but it was like pretty scary."
Huh.
That's all I got.
So your worst animal encounter was a theoretical
Animals love
That's
me.
not quite an encounter.
Animals love me, John.
I had one where, and funny because I was pinging about this on the thread, but I used to go to the what's it called, like the Alabama coast with my grandparents. They lived in Alabama growing up, and there was one time we were there, and there was a poisonous snake underneath the steps of leading down to the beach, and so we were walking up the steps. The snake kind of like. It wasn't like it like thrashed at me or anything, but it was there, and it started sort of like doing its little snaky "I'm looking at you" thing. And this older neighbor who had been like out playing with us, we were probably, I don't know, like 8 or 9, comes and just kills the snake with a stick. Like just and I mean, look, it was like a poisonous snake. Like, you kind of got to get it out of there either way, and we weren't in a position to safely remove it. So that was a little. I still remember. I like very distinctly remember him killing the snake, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Because he kind of came out of nowhere. But yeah, a little off-putting.
How about you, Shelton?
I mean, I'm from Alabama, so I've seen many snakes being killed. It's just what you do. If there's poisonous ones, you just pick up the non-poisonous. My worst encounter would probably just be the possum that my dog just mutilated.
Oh.
That I thought was okay. I thought it's playing possum, hence the name. It's just laying there, just leave it alone, and it'll like crawl off like once it recovers. And then I went and checked like 2 hours later, and it had crawled about 2 feet and left like a smear of entrails behind it. And yeah,
I had a coworker who had a Weimaraner. I don't know if you've ever seen those. They're not like massive, but they're like pretty big and lanky and kind of powerful runners. And she would take it for a walk in this golf course in the morning, and it was in the middle of winter, and she's walking, and the thing she didn't even see that, but there was a deer about like 50 yards away. This dog broke free of the leash, and like Nat Geo pounced on this deer. It went right for the jugular, ripped its jugular out, and fucking killed it. And it was just laying there in the middle of this like snowy golf course, just spurting blood. She's like, I was screaming.
Wow.
Dogs, man, can't take the wild out of them, John. They're beasts.
Yeah, they are.
When I look into my sleeping Chihuahua's eyes, I just think, what's he capable of?
Could this thing kill a rat? Unclear.
No, he would run
That's
away.
awesome.
In fact, I never even, unlike our other dog before she passed away, I never even worry about him running away, like off leash, because this dude does not want to be outside. Like, he knows where inside is, and as soon as he does his business, he's going back there.
This is enough world for me.
Yeah, he's
The interior of this building.
He's
So,
good. He's not a big fan.
yeah. All right.
I had an encounter recently, and it wasn't even directly with the animal. But my daughter has a bearded dragon that she loves very much. I'm afraid to hold it because I'm a big weenie as far as lizards go. But just a few weeks ago, I noticed her bedroom door was open, and she was off at work. I stuck my head in there and saw that her the bearded dragon's cage was open, and I looked in the cage and I couldn't find it, and I sweated for the rest of the night, certain that bearded dragon was somewhere tearing through the house. Turns out it was hiding under the rock in the cage the entire time. It never even left. But
there you go. All right. Well, are they, like, how big is it?
It's good size. It's about this long. He's a fat little dude. I'll pet it. I don't want to hold it.
All right, we should probably move on, John. That's a good question.
So, Von Worms. That's at Von_Worms. Not so much about Crawl, but how do you rank Alexander Aja's other work? Obviously, High Tension cannot be ignored. And how do you feel Crawl stacks up against his previous efforts?
I don't think he's ever made anything better than High Tension, although I haven't seen all of his movies. But
So really quick, here's the list. High Tension, The Hills Have Eyes remake, 2006. Mirrors, that was
for those of you playing along at home, that is the movie in which Kiefer Sutherland, frightened by a spirit in a mirror, shoots it with a gun.
Yeah.
Just pulls out his gun and shoots it.
Piranha 3D.
Okay, I'll give him that.
Horns. Remember Horns?
Oh, yeah. I forgot he did that.
With Daniel Radcliffe.
Yes,
That was really
correct.
Good. That was really good. I like that. But that was
he did this
also
movie.
that was also based on a property, right?
It was Joe Hill, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, the novel. He did another. This one I've never heard of. The Ninth Life of Louis Drax, and then Crawl. That's his directing oeuvre.
Yeah, I mean, I think out of that list, I think that the first one's the best.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd go to bat for the Hills Have Eyes remakes. I think out of all those,
Yeah, I like that one.
remake phase, that was probably one of the best.
yeah, I like that. I like Piranha 3D. I like Horns. I mean, I'm kind of in for all of them.
It is
He
though.
also-
It is kind of all over the place, and like not a lot of signature. Like, can you pin down what his style is? It's like he's done a lot of weird, different stuff.
He also wrote Maniac, the Maniac remake with God, what's his name? I can't even think right now. Elijah Wood, yeah. And then P2. You guys remember P2? I thought that was actually a really good
I
movie.
do, yes. That's a parking.
The sequel to
garage,
The
John.
Perminator?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. Cool. Von Worms also says, in addition, did you see many similarities to Piranha 3D? What does the Venn diagram of Piranha 3D and Crawl look like? Interesting question.
Not much.
I don't know. I remember there being a lot more build up in Piranha 3D to get to the good stuff, and this one jumped right into it. So that separates them pretty well there.
The overhead shot of the cop being torn apart by the alligators, very reminiscent of Piranha 3D. There's a lot of those like overhead shot piranhas sort of, chowing down on people type setups. So, I don't know. Both fun movies in their way. Alyssa, but witchier. It's our friend at Lycanthropology. If you were to do an episode of Drunk History, what story would you tell?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I have an answer for this. It's just
Please.
the Spanish American War.
Okay,
Because-
Spanish.
Because
Very
one
good.
That's a big story.
because one time I watched an 8-hour History Channel documentary on it when they used to do actual documentaries, and I liked it so much I bought it, and I've seen it multiple times.
I guess I'm sure it's been done, but I would like a JFK assassination. I think that'd be pretty fun. There's a lot of directions you could go with it because you could go real deep on the minutia of the assassination and the sort of like path, and or you could just go straight conspiracy crazy, and either way you're gonna have a good time.
Yeah. I don't know. For me, the actually, just because I heard it today, I turned on last podcast at the left, and they're talking about a serial killer, Belle, and I can't think of her last name right now, but she was a 19th century serial killer from a town near my hometown. So I would do that because I got kind of excited.
And I got
All right.
nothing. I don't know.
All right.
Batman.
Okay. All right, last question here then for you. Andy at HorrorFan4129. 2 questions. Thoughts on the Top Gun 2 trailer and Lesnar being champ again?
I don't know much of Lesnar as a wrestler. I know him more as a theoretical entity we discussed on Bloody Good Horror as far as
Yeah.
him fighting Candyman. Every match I've seen of his is pretty entertaining. I will say that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't follow the.
But I think
the
I
wrestling.
get the vibe that fans are like pretty done with him just always being on top. So
I mean, like my feeling with this kind of stuff is kind of if they had another option, they would probably like.
he is very
Lesnar's
much
the only name.
He's very much
right
the
now.
prototypical thing that Vince McMahon likes, which is like a giant hulking beast man. Whereas like a lot of the other younger stars that have come up are of a little bit of a different mold that I think is like, I don't know. This is the theory of a person who just reads a lot about this but doesn't actually watch it. I just think like,
and I actually heard a really good. It was like one of the Bill Simmons podcasts or one of those Ringer shows, and they were talking about how there's this new upstart wrestling league that's actually trying to go after
it's
a lot of the WWE stars.
AEW is what they're called. John, we're getting into a whole thing here. We're getting way out of our depth here. I just want you to know that.
Nah, but I mean, to your point, I don't follow this shit at all. But I thought that podcast was super interesting because, I mean, look,
there's a lot going on in the scene right now, John. I'll send you some links.
Does anyone have Top Gun 2 trailer thoughts?
I don't fucking
Haven't
care.
watched it.
I hate Tom Cruise. Fuck Tom Cruise. Stop giving him work. I don't want to see him act. I don't want to see his face. I don't want to hear his voice.
But you love to watch him run.
Hashtag free.
Looks awesome.
Hashtag free Katie Holmes.
Yeah, I actually haven't watched the trailer either for most of the reasons Eric laid out.
She's already free. I just think we should reiterate that she should be free.
I will say I got very excited because I saw Mission Impossible Fallout is going to be on Amazon at the end of August, I believe. So pretty pumped because I never saw it, and I hear good things.
Okay, that movie I'm into. Is that the one with Superman with the mustache?
I don't know. It's the most recent one. It came out like last summer.
He has an actual mustache.
I actually do want to see that. Yeah,
it's pretty badass.
All right, that's all we got on the tweets.
Damn, son. If you want to tweet us, you can hit us up at BG Horror. Guys, let's talk. Let's wrap here.
Next week, Eric. Your dreams are coming true.
Oh well, yes.
Yes.
Also that. I was gonna save that for last, John, but you ruined it.
All right,
Next week we are reviewing Hellboy. I just want to see it. I like that guy. I follow him on Twitter.
Hellboy 2019. Which guy do you like? Is the thing I'm curious.
Hellboy is the guy from Stranger Things, the sheriff.
David Harbour.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I like.
I mean, it's no Ron. I mean, Ron Perlman. It's.
Oh, I agree.
Iconic.
You should have cast
Yeah, but
Perlman.
Hopper's cool too.
But if you've
No,
got,
I love.
I like this guy. Seems like he likes sandwiches, and I like that about him.
Dude, his fight scenes in Stranger Things are great. I
Yeah.
love because it's like he's not good at fighting, so he just gets wailed on.
Yeah. So we're gonna check it out. We missed it in theaters. Like I was discussing before the show, unless I remedy it this weekend, I've never seen a whole Hellboy movie all the way through. So here we go.
Blows my mind.
So this is probably my favorite one. I'll make everybody mad.
Perfect.
The other thing is, John, we're having this meetup in September. Time is running out. It may feel like you have plenty of time, but we're over halfway through summer now. It's time to get your financial affairs in order, John, and get that ticket to come see us. So
I mean, I'll just feel bad if people don't buy their plane tickets in time. They're gonna have to drive, and that could be a long drive.
Don't
It's gonna be
forget
really tough.
bloodygoodhorror.com. And like last time, everybody wanted the 10-year shirts, but they weren't really for sale. So if you want this CC shirt, you gotta be there, bro. You gotta be there. It's convention exclusive.
We'll probably sell it at some point. I don't want to. All right.
No,
No,
don't.
you're right. We won't do that.
Don't say
Just
that.
pile them up in Joe's spare bedroom.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, and if you want to see a live stream of this show every week, as well as get access to our Slack community, which is growing all the time, patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror. Like literally $1 a month or more goes towards keeping us going. So if you like this horror podcast, we would love your support. So check it out, patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror. I think that's going to do it. Shelton, thank you for joining us tonight.
Oh, pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Hope you guys enjoyed our discussion of Crawl, and we'll talk to you next week for a little Hellboy.
See you.
Later.
Bye-bye.